Hello, beautiful internet people. Welcome to Politically Incorrect Knitters. My name's Ann Pinkova. This is lovely, deplorable knitter. And
hello.
There you go. And do we have a show for you?
Ann and I are a little punch drunk today. I don't know what's happening, but we're going to try our best. It's just that kind of Wednesday after a holiday, I guess, that we're a little goofy. Too many days of vacation, I think.
Something.
Or something.
But we have been knitting our little patriotic hearts out, so that's exciting.
What would you like to show us today, Anne? What did you bring for show and tell? Oh,
well, yes.
1 second. Before we do that, I just wanted to say thank you to everybody last week who went and supported Cedar Hill Yarns. It was awesome. You guys are fabulous, and Kia really appreciated all of that. So thank you, thank you.
Yeah, that was really exciting. Really good showing. Thanks, guys. Awesome.
So now, what did your patriotic heart knit for us today?
Well, patriotic heart. So I've been working on Come and Take It. So I just have the words now. So it's just come and take it. One day,
nice.
There'll be a cannon attached to it. It'll be exciting.
It will grow up and have a cannon?
It will grow up and have a cannon and a little star.
Cool.
But yeah, I had some problems. I had started and I got halfway through the letters, and then I sent you a picture that I had to go down in needle size because I'm using hand spun yarn and I kind of suck at spinning. So you can tell that it's not super even. I can like kind of be like, oh well, this is old spinning that I've done, so it doesn't count. But really, my spinning is still at this level. So you can't tell how uneven it is from here, but it's fairly uneven. So with a larger needle size, it was really obvious and really see-through. So I didn't want to look that tattered.
Yeah, there's a difference between looking hand spun and like worn out.
Yeah.
Or, you know, like
looking kind of
totally
patchy
over.
and
yeah. No, that's cool. Very nice.
Uh-huh.
I don't know if you guys know this, but I also crochet. And so I have some little girls in my life. Sorry, my kitten is trying to eat this. But this is a permaid, which is obviously a cat that is a mermaid. And so I made this for one of my friend's kids. And I am going to, I also made another one, but that one already went to its house. But
yes.
I made 2 of these this weekend because I know little girls who wanted them. So, I mean, you got to do what you got to do when the little girls ask.
Exactly. They're adorable.
And I really had fun doing that too because, like I've talked about lately, I haven't been totally inspired to knit, and I really need to be in the mood to knit. Like, I'm not one of those people who will just sit down and angrily knit and make a sweater like Anne. So the permaids were a nice break. And since I started the permaids, the cat is gonna help me with this, sorry. She's been really helping me knit this morning, which is super exciting. But I am just starting some words right here. I think you can see there's some gray. But this is going to be our Votes for Women block for our quilt.
Uh-huh.
So it's going to have more stripes up above the words, but I wanted it to be done. But like I said, the cat has been knitting with me all morning, so it's been a little bit difficult, unfortunately.
Right. Oh, and you mentioned that it would make a pretty awesome cowl too.
Yeah. I might make it into a pattern. We'll have to talk about if that's something that's going to happen, since it's for our quilt and Anne's involved in it. But I'm really, really pleased with how it's coming out, and it's really, the stars are not quite how I would like them, but I think that they are nice. So I think it'll be good. Mm-hmm. We'll see.
They're workable. And it's obvious they're stars.
Yeah. and I'm totally going to have to steek it. So that's going to be an adventure, and I'm going to try to tape it. No guarantees that it will actually work or that it will be a usable video, but I will tape it, and maybe you guys can see how it works when I cut it in half, which is terrifying to me.
It is. It is terrifying.
Have you steeked something before?
I have.
Okay.
It was exciting. It was trying to remember the name of the pattern book. It's Fearless Fair Isle Knitting by, I want to say Catherine Grayson, but I don't know if that's actually her name. Kathleen Grayson. Fearless Fair Isle Knitting. But she's actually from South Dakota, so it was like a Prairie Dreams cardigan. So there were like it was a massive Fair Isle sweater, and then there was like little pheasants and little pasque flowers and everything. It was a really cool sweater. Took me forever, and then after you sit there and you're making it forever, and it's these tiny stitches, and you worked on this for ages and ages. Okay, now you're cutting it. Like, ah!
Yeah, I'm a little bit nervous about the cutting it thing, but the good news is that part that I have done only took me a couple hours. So when the whole thing's said and done, it's like a day's worth of work. So if I mess it up, it's not a sweater.
Right.
Which is a bonus.
Yeah. You know, even if you cut it and everything falls apart and you cry, it's like, you know what? It was only so much.
Yeah, no, I think that it's good practice too, because I do love to do Fair Isle. And so that way, if I decide to make a sweater or something at some point, I'll have practice with it. So I won't be just doing it for the first time on this beautiful masterpiece of stuff I've done, which is cool.
For that.
But
there you go.
Got any other knitting, woman?
I have Brexit tea cozy.
Is it all done?
It is all done. This
is it giant?
It's it'll be a big teapot. Like, so here's my dinky little teapot, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's too big, and it's still wet on the inside because I blocked it. But here, if I pretend it's a tall teapot,
mm-hmm.
I could just kind of. You can
finagle it.
I mean, it's like.
So really, that's something that could be. Oh wow! Look at that.
Yeah.
So that could go down to like size 0 needles and fingering weight to be a
regular size tea cozy.
To be a smaller one.
Yeah, but
like how I'm rewriting your pattern for you.
Yeah. No.
Sorry.
Look. This was size 2 needles right now,
mm-hmm.
and huge pain in the behind. Like so I wanted, the entire reason that this is so big is because I wanted these letters to be this size, even though the X is too wide, but I'm trying not to think about that. But yeah, it's a good enough size that that writing out party is legible and also thin because it's supposed to be thinner. It's how it's all set up and all of that. And then in addition, okay, so I worked this in the round, going back or not in the round, the sort of intarsia round thing, going back and forth. So you have the white attached on this side and the white and red attached on this side, and you're carrying the blue throughout, and it's massive mess, massive pain in the butt. And then flipping this bad boy inside out. So this side is all nice and normal.
Beautiful.
But this side, probably won't be able to see, but the center column, I had gotten like 10 rows in, and I had already had to take it out already. And I went another 10 rows in, and I realized that the center column was 2 stitches over. And I'm like, I don't want, and again, if I take it out, I have to take out everything I've done on this side too. And I'm like, I don't want to do that. So what I ended up doing is I ended up dropping the stitches to the side and then picking them up in the different color and moving the entire, so, the the red stripe and the white stripes. So I had to move them over and then do it. And then in addition to that, so the red stripe right here, flip again the other side. I had forgotten that when you have the white stripe underneath that you have to carry the red through. So I had to drop the 2 rows I had already done of white and then add in red and then knit that back and forth. And then, which you can tell right here because that's where the little white yarn that I dropped, so I kind of twisted it and shoved it in there. Like it's a tea cozy, it's not a hat. You don't have to worry about a lump. So yeah, there was a lot of, and then I had to, my decrease was wrong the first time and it made it ruffle weird. And then I tried to, and then I had to undo that and do it again. And it was too tall and it was weird and square. And then I was worried because I put some of my decreases for the tea cozy in the circle and did the top of the circle look pinched. And it's a, you know, if somebody asks me to make another one of these, I'm going to have to really like them and they're going to have to pay me really well. Like, or
you could just write the pattern and sell it.
True. But then even if I write the pattern, then I'll have to go back and figure out what I did. And which will probably mean me making another one. But Brexit. A massive pain in the butt.
Well, that's probably what a lot of people would say about it.
Exactly. I think it's a pretty good analogy for Brexit as a whole. Worth it? Yes. Really stupidly difficult for a, well, not that this is super simple, but I've done stuff like this before. Like it shouldn't have been so.
But sometimes it is, and that's how it goes.
Like, yeah. Anyways, made me mad.
I bet it did. But we all know that when you are mad, things work out well for you.
Exactly. Well, I don't know if it's finished. It's finished and it's a reasonable thing. And that is as far as I'm going to go with that. But it's, you know, it's the actual slogan, get Brexit done. And I'm like, you know, I'm sitting there like, I don't want to do this. Like, but get Brexit done. And like, okay, fine. You know, it's only like one of the most important political movements of our time next to Trump's 2016 election. That's cool and stuff. I mean, that's fine.
Cool. I like it a lot.
It's some cool stuff.
I was totally thinking that I had been knitting something else, but I don't think I was. I was just having a brain fart here going, did I do something else this weekend? I'm pretty sure I didn't.
Like phantom knitting. Like, surely I did.
It's hard to say. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's been a long weekend.
I know. Like, I told you that I had most of an idea for a Hong Kong hat, but that didn't really, like, it will probably work out, but I have come and take it, and I have the quilt to do, and I have everything else. So
sorry, Hong Kong. But I thought you said you were going to make a Hong Kong sweater, not sweater, scarf.
Scarf,
right?
Yes. That the pattern that I have for Hong Kong right now is the Hong Kong flag is a 5-petal flower. So my plan right now is to have a beret and then the decrease on the top be the flower.
Very cool.
So yeah, if it works out.
I don't know how you do that, but cool.
Well, a lot of the superhero hats that I have a star on the top. So you're just doing the points of the star and it comes in it. It's a little star on the top of your hat. So that's cool. I'm just taking that same concept and making it difficult.
Right. Well, because that's how you roll. You take something that was kind of easy and then you like make it as hard as you can because you'd like to do that. Yeah,
because why not? But I also think, I mean, then you'll flip your red beret over and there'll be a big Hong Kong flower on it and that'll be nice. But I want to do it on a scarf, and the problem is because you're still working on a grid. So if you're doing the whole flower at once instead of just a little slice of the flower, then when you have your petals off at angles, you have to get them in each of the petals have to look the same, but they're going around. And again, there's 5. If it was 4 of them, then you could have right angles. But because there's 5 of them, then
and so what she's saying is, because she's Anne, that she will spend the next month trying to make it as absolutely perfect as she possibly can, because that's just how she rolls.
Right. But I'm also saying that I'm going to cheat and have my brother pixelate it. And then I'm going to take, instead of just freehanding it and doing it over and over and over again, I'm going to have him pixelate it and then take it and then rework it. Because once
to an knitting chart,
yeah, because once you just pixelate it, it doesn't, that often doesn't actually work from there. So you gotta, so you have to sit there and you have to go crazy. Did she just stab you?
God, she just bit me so hard.
Oh.
She really, really is frisky. Can you see her biting? Like, go away, be free. I don't think she will. She'll come back.
No.
That's how she rolls. I think we're getting a thunderstorm all of a sudden. It hasn't rained in like 3 weeks here.
Oh.
Kind of exciting.
That is exciting.
I'm happy about it. It means I don't have to go out and water the garden tonight in the 90-degree heat we've had. So I'm pretty stoked, actually.
Right. It's been on and off here. I totally drowned my $3 impatience planter. Like, I had it out in the rain and it just poured, and now all the leaves are gone. I'm like, oh dear.
Oh, it didn't want that much water?
Didn't want that much water.
That's funny.
Yeah, so I'm not a gardener. Knitting is my post-apocalyptic skill, not gardening.
Yeah, no, I am not very good at gardening either. But this year, I actually have cucumber plants that are like, I've eaten cucumbers off of my plants, and I have tomatoes that are growing actual real tomatoes. The bean plants didn't fare so well, but I think that that's pretty impressive. But if I did not have my husband, they would all be dead. Because me and remembering to water stuff doesn't happen. Like, everything dies when I'm in charge of it. Oh, except my kids. I'm really, really good at watering them. I remember that every day. So
well, they remind you. So that's hey.
Yeah, they're at that age now where they tell me stuff, so it works.
Great. You don't just have to remember it out of hand. You can be like, oh yeah. Yeah.
So it works out pretty well, actually. I don't know what's happening here. I thought I heard my husband yelling at me. I don't know. Now the cat is yelling at me. Something is happening.
I don't
got nothing. So this weekend was a super fun time. We actually got to see friends, which was novel.
What?
We haven't done that in a long time. And even though the fireworks were canceled here, there were lots of people who were still enjoying fireworks, so that was cool. Mm-hmm. And Anne was so super, she told me to watch it like 4 times before I actually did, but the president at Mount Rushmore, that was super thrilling, right?
Yeah, it was awesome. And then my lovely, lovely governor, Miss Kristi Noem. And, it is a rare woman who can stand up on stage and hold her own when Melania Trump is also on that stage. For her to still be looking good next to Melania, that is an achievement in itself. And her speech was also awesome and constitutional and everything else. But,
I did not actually watch her speech, sorry. Well, I finally remembered this morning, right, before we did this, because I knew you wanted to talk about it. So I watched the president. But some of them, like, I was watching it on YouTube, and so I went to Fox News and I watched their clip of it. Mm-hmm. And I didn't watch the 2.5-hour one or whatever they had posted. I watched the 42-minute one where his speech starts and then it ends, and then I had other things I had to do. Sorry.
That's okay.
I'll go look for her later, because I could not tell you who she was if I fell on her. So.
No, sure. Her speech was only like 12 minutes. It was very similar to what the president said, but she was talking about the importance of memorials and of understanding that founders, that not to wipe away the founders' virtues because of their faults. that you have to see them both and understand that even with faults, that the good things that they did. So
that's really, yeah. People now, so the thing with all the statues, people who are protesting them, I understand that they have real concerns about things, but they're looking at things through a 2020 lens.
Right.
And these people were good people when they were doing their stuff back in the 17, 18, whatever hundreds. And the way that you viewed things back then is not the same way you view them now. And it's hard to take our lens that we have and put it on those things, because you're always going to find fault. Does that make sense?
Right. I would also say, I've mentioned this thing with the hypocrisy so much, but to have people who are looking at former, the founding fathers who talked about getting rid of slavery. Oh, well, they didn't get rid of slavery right away. As my mother says, that's what happens when you compromise with Democrats, because they were trying, to get rid of slavery, they first had to leave England. Like, you can't have your own government in which you get rid of slavery unless you are your own government, because England wasn't answering any of their petitions, not for taxes, not for, England was actually preventing the American colonialists from sending missionaries, like stuff like that. They were ticked. So that we couldn't be our own nation in which people were free if we were subservient to England still. So compromising with the people who still wanted slavery in order for them to be separate. Should they have? Well, obviously it all came out later in the Civil War. The founders mentioned slavery as the snake under the table, that they have to get rid of it or it was going to bite them all. And Civil War, to a certain extent, did. Yeah. But again, George Washington and Thomas Jefferson, for example, having slaves, and people having slaves, inherited slaves. There's been slavery since the dawn of time, and they still had slaves. And then they talked about getting rid of their slaves, as opposed to, again, I brought this up before, but good old Colin Kaepernick out there supporting Nike. Again, Nike, who owns slaves, whose slaves, that Uyghur slaves, Chinese Muslims, who they're now sterilizing, are out there making your shoes, buddy boy, when he's also, Colin Kaepernick is Muslim, and there's slavery throughout the Muslim world today. And, our country right now having Chinese made slave goods. So yeah, I riff a lot about, Chinese slavery and stuff, but really you have the expectation that all of your electronics, all of your cheap goods, all of your shoes are all made by slaves in China. But that wasn't the case, as far as 20, 30 years ago. So you had, you have George Washington, whose slavery was always a thing. And now we are reestablishing that slavery is a thing and ignored. Like, that's
right. And I think that being angry at people hundreds of years ago for having slaves when there are issues that are still going on is really hypocritical.
Oh, it's terrible.
But the whole Black Lives Matter movement has a lot of hypocrisy in it anyway, because it's only the Black lives that fit their narrative. Nobody's talking about those kids that were killed over this long weekend or anything. It's all about these people who are doing things they shouldn't have been doing in the first place, who have gotten killed. And it's really a very sad situation. Right.
And and again, even on the George Floyd incident, where again, it was so obvious that everyone was against this happening, that this was terrible. And yeah, and then the Black Lives Matter movement will say, will take an obvious, this was terrible and shouldn't have happened, and then they'll lump other names in with it and be like, there's a lot more nuance to these other situations. And then you're saying, I've seen a series, and they're cutesy cartoons with, you know, big-eyed people of, oh, well, you know, Trayvon Martin was just an innocent young man walking home with some Skittles and an Arizona tea can. And then, you know, he was killed by George Zimmerman. And I'm like, whatever happened between him and Zimmerman? He was beating Zimmerman's head against the pavement, and then he was killed. What? There's no... Like, I'm not saying that anyone should have died or should have gotten beaten up, but there's more going on there. It's not just everything's all happy and this evil man killed him. Hang on.
It's not all clear cut, and that's the thing. Like, everybody's like, say Breonna Taylor's name. They're like, oh, well, it was a no-knock warrant. Well, it was a no-knock warrant, but they knocked. Yeah. Whoever was with her got a gun. Like, it's not just this narrative that they're trying to shove down your throat. Other things are going on, and I really am against anybody who jumps on a bandwagon without doing their research, because you can have a 30-second clip that makes it sound like the worst thing that ever happened, and then you can go and research it and find out that it's not exactly what they're trying to feed you.
Right. And the one, it was a really, really sad case with, I believe the guy's name was Elijah McClain.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that he was behaving oddly, and the police were called on him. That he his family said that he I forget what it's called, but he got cold easily. So it was warmer, but he had a face covering and he had a hoodie and he was waving his arms around weirdly. So the police got a call like, someone's, you know, we don't
something
know what's going
on.
Something weird's going on. And they tried to detain him and he resisted. And I've seen many posts that his last words were, no, don't touch me. Don't, you know, I'm an introvert. I have whatever. I do this. Don't do it. And he was freaking out. And again, when a police officer approaches a situation, you don't know what the problem is. And it's terrible, but you don't know if he's on drugs, you don't know whatever else. And what happened is they did a chokehold on him, and I forget what it's called, but it's not chokehold where they stop you from breathing. It's the chokehold where they you know, your arteries that you come in, and if you apply pressure on the sides of your neck, again, you're not choking breathing wise, but it will shut off a little bit of blood from your brain, and your brain, like there's a sensor that goes off like, whoa, we need blood to the brain. So you'll go unconscious, and you're generally only unconscious for minute and a half, and you come up and there's no brain damage or anything. There's many studies actually that a chokehold like that, again, you can breathe. It's a blood to the brain temporary. You're gonna, as long as you know you're not holding long and it's done correctly, that there is much less injury in that kind of a chokehold than by a taser, by and far amounts. But anyway, so they did that kind of a chokehold to knock him out for a second. The EMT then administered a sedative, and something went wrong with that, and he died 6 days later. That he was, again, being restrained by the EMT, and it's considered, again, police brutality. This is, you know, that people say things like, oh, well, stopping a kid, a policeman stopping a kid for something weird shouldn't be a death sentence. And no, it's certainly shouldn't be, but there was something medical going on in addition to that. It's, you know, crossing the street shouldn't be a death sentence, but sometimes it is. It oughtn't to be, but sometimes you get hit by a car, or sometimes you get randomly shot if you're in Chicago, and sometimes horrible things happen. You trip over a brick, you know, right. That in this situation, like, oh, it's police brutality. There was a lot of, again, the kid shouldn't have died. But sometimes people do. It's not And again, this kid apparently had a lot of anxiety. It could have just, the entire situation could have, given him a heart attack. Like there's definitely more medical to go into that, and perhaps medical that is out there that I don't know about. But
yeah, that's one case I haven't read that much about, unfortunately.
Right. I believe Brandon Tatum has a video about it, and I got his name wrong. It's Tatum. I said Tantum before. It's wrong. His name's Tatum.
Okay.
But he has a video about that. And
okay.
he links to the original video too, so you can. The original video is out there, so you can make your own judgment.
Right. I think I've seen some of it, but I just I haven't heard much beyond that he was a nice kid. He kept saying, I'm a nice guy. And it sounds like a super unfortunate situation. I just don't know much about it, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's bad. Certainly should not have happened. And then, like you mentioned, Breonna Taylor, where, again, I don't want people to die. I don't want anything like that. But she wasn't asleep, and the cop kicked the door down and shot her. It was...
No, not even a little bit like that.
Right. There was a knock on the door. Her boyfriend grabbed a gun, and she was killed in the ensuing firefight.
Right. It's not exactly this whole, like, she was sleeping and she was not doing anything wrong, because if you look into it, she was involved with drugs. I don't know if she was dealing or if her boyfriend was dealing, but there's a reason they had a warrant for her house.
Right.
It's not like they just walked in and this happened.
Right. I've seen people say, oh, well, they got the warrant for the wrong house, that it was like a no-knock warrant, and like it was supposed to be number 4 and you hit the door down on number 3. And no, that it didn't happen. And everyone,
that's not the case even a little.
Yeah, and there's, again, these beautiful, beautiful internet graphics where she has such a serene look and there's flowers all around her. Again, I'm not saying she should have died, but she's not a saint.
Right.
And people go on and on, say her name, say her name, say her name. Say the names of the dead kids in Chicago.
Right. That's the thing. If you really care about Black lives, if this is really an issue to you, why aren't you concerned about all the shootings that happen every weekend in major cities? Why aren't you concerned about the 8-year-old that was shot over the weekend? Why aren't you holding vigils for those people? It's because they don't further the narrative. So therefore, they are not convenient. Right. And it's super unfortunate because those people, absolutely, we should be saying their names.
Definitely. And I don't know if you saw this clip this week, but the actor Terry Crews has gotten a lot of criticism this week by saying such controversial statements of, not everyone who is white is good and not everyone who is Black is good, but there are also good people who are Black and good people who are white, and I'll stand with them. Whoa.
Whoa. How horrible that they would say that.
I know. What was Terry Crews thinking? But he was on Don Lemon's show, or Lennon. It is Lemon, yeah, sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, terrible with names. But he was talking with him, and he kind of like would not, he's interviewing Terry Crews and then wouldn't allow Terry Crews to speak. That it was, like, oh, well, talking about dead kids in Chicago is apples and oranges to talking about dead people from police brutality. And what are you thinking? And that's not even the issue. And what are you talking about? Like, it's American gun culture who kills people. And I'm sorry, there's a difference between gun culture, which is, that a right to defend yourself. And then there's neighborhoods in Chicago which are filled with gang violence. It's not gun culture. There is obviously guns in gangs, but that's a different thing than just blaming random deaths in Chicago on they're kind of implying that it's the Second Amendment at fault.
Right. Well, Don Lemon is part of the left-wing political mouthpiece, and so therefore the fact that somebody was not on the same page as him, obviously he wasn't going to let him speak or expound on his ideals because it doesn't fit the narrative. I mean, it's so easy to see. If it doesn't fit the narrative, they're going to try to make it go away. They're going to talk over them. They're going to whatever they need to do.
Yeah. I have yet to see it. I really should like sit down and order it because the Uncle Tom movie, which is it's kind of a documentary about Black conservatism or conservatives, that they tell different stories, and part of the advertisement is horrible things that Black conservatives have been called.
Well, did you see this weekend that Snoop Dogg was putting out this, it looks like the Brady Bunch graphic with little squares of everybody's, of all the Black conservatives' faces, and then it says like the Coon Bunch. And then there's like, I saw pictures of Snoop Dogg like shaking Trump's hand because until a minute ago, he was all for Trump, and now, once again, it doesn't fit the narrative, so now he's going around calling everybody else coons. Like, what the heck?
What sort of horrible, like, not even thinking it through. One minute you're hanging out there with Martha Stewart, and the other minute and again, where did this come from? Like, where did this, you wake up one morning and you're like, you know what? I have a thing to say about Black conservatives. What?
Yeah. No, it's and what does anybody gain by that?
I don't know.
So you just call a whole bunch of people a name. Like, does it do anything? Does it, it doesn't make them quiet. It doesn't, I just, what's the end game? Is there an end game?
I don't know. Just, it's the insanity. And I was watching a video, I believe it was the Hodge twins, and they were talking about, that, are we oppressed? I don't know. No one was calling us names until I became a conservative.
Right. And
again, from a totally different perspective, there is of course he's British. There's a conservative, I'm sorry, I know you're going to make fun of me for it, so I'm going to come out and say British guy. And then I'm not going to be able to pronounce his name. It's a conservative YouTuber. He was an Iranian refugee, or I guess political refugee, grew up in England. Mayar Tosi, I believe it's pronounced. Again, it's probably very wrong because I don't know how to pronounce Iranian names. I'm sorry. I apologize. Anyways, he was doing an interview talking about being a conservative and being for Brexit, and also sort of has he experienced racism, and he's like, there's racist comments, but racism in England versus he talked about he has a couple cousins in Germany, which is supposed to be super lovely and super lefty, and aren't we all great and multicultural, that his cousins that are in Germany will be like randomly beat up in back alleys, for the color of their skin. And he's like, what? He's like, yeah. And he'll be talking to his cousin like, oh, you have like a black guy? He's like, oh yeah, I got beat up last week. What?
Yeah, that's just that's not supposed to be a normal thing. Oh yeah, whatever, I got.
You're like, no, that is the obvious racism. That is okay, so every once in a while not that getting a bad comment or something is easy or nice, but getting an occasional rude comment versus getting beat up in a back alleyway, that's pretty,
Yeah, it's the double standard is just very, it's very discouraging. There's this whole like, they can be mean or say whatever they want to anyone else. If you are Black and you don't agree, then you fall right into the evil conservative side, and otherwise everybody loves you and you're fabulous and it's great.
Right.
Doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, it's that trying to make it a race thing, which is easy to do because you can see very clearly what race people are. But again, it's making race ideological, that because your skin color is X, you must believe Y. And if you have, quote, the wrong thoughts with a different skin color, which is so, all of this is so racist, it drives me nuts. But that if you are a Black conservative, then you're wrong. Then you're race traitor. Just, again, dreadful things that you don't
horrible
say.
Stuff.
But it doesn't matter what, we would be all for you, all rah, 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 if you believed, like, again, horrible racist, like you were supposed to. Like, what?
Right.
We would be your friend, but because you don't, you believe this evil conservatism, then be gone with you. Then we're going to call you these horrible names that if anyone called us these names, they would be horrible racist people, except it's me saying it, so it's okay. What?
Right. The whole thing is just very, very disconcerting, because if I went around and said these things to anybody, I would be a horrible person. But because you guys have the same skin color and then they're not agreeing with you, you can do it. It's just,
yeah.
I mean, there was a guy on a local news station who accidentally called Martin Luther King Jr. Park Martin Luther Coon Jr. Park. And actually a speech person came and said that it's not impossible that because he was saying King and Junior, it came out as a combination of the two sounds. I mean, that dude lost his job.
Oy.
So that's one standard. And then on the other side, we've got this whole group of people who just go around bashing anybody who doesn't agree with them. Like, I don't understand how you can differentiate or justify, I guess. I don't understand how you can justify that kind of ideology or
it's
actions. I don't know.
Yeah, there's the double speak, the sort of cognitive dissonance. Well, it's okay in this context, but not okay in this context. Like, whoa, let's put them together. Let's
right.
You know, that there's such a sharp dividing line between them. That
I don't know. But
in positive news,
yes, is there positive news today?
Of course, there's positive news about Trump's Garden of Heroes, which I am super excited about.
Do we know where that's going to be? Is that a DC thing, or is it a...
I don't know where it's going to be. I know that something like it was proposed in Pierre, South Dakota, which is our state's capital. But to my knowledge, that no one has said where this is going to be.
Okay. I heard him talk about it, but I didn't really, like I said, I watched the video this morning, so I haven't had much time to digest it.
Right. And I mean, just the list of people it's awesome that you have, again, we have John Adams and Thomas Jefferson. We have Frederick Douglass. We have Joshua Lawrence Chamberlain, who is a particular favorite of mine.
Yeah, Anne has a crush on Joshua Lawrence Chamberlain.
I do.
Never mind the fact that he was a Civil War dude, but whatever. It's all cool.
He was incredibly interesting. Just FYI, he was famous in Gettysburg.
Died like 150 years ago.
Fun fact, he was the last person to die of his wounds from the Civil War. He died when he was like 80, but his death technically was complications from an injury he had received.
You should let other people tell you their fun facts. Sorry, that's a line from a movie. Sorry. I could not pass that up.
Right? It's like, that's not a fun fact for most people. But he was not the last person to be killed by the Civil War, because in the 40s, there were some people who died from an artillery shell that went off accidentally. So that was the last Civil War death versus last person to die of their injuries from the Civil War. So you can...
That actually is pretty interesting. Okay. I was giving you grief, but it was pretty interesting.
Just in case, you're at a party or something and you want to bring that one up. That's why I don't get invited that much. Anyways, Chamberlain was the guy who ordered the bayonet charge at the Battle of, gonna get it wrong, Little Round Top. There we go. At Gettysburg.
Nice try, though.
See, you just looked at it. Clearly, you know more. Again, good old JLC facts than I do.
No. I just looked at it like 30 seconds ago, which is why I know it. Because he was called the Lion of Little Round Top. So if he was at Little Big Top, his nickname wouldn't make as much sense.
Right. Anyways, statue of him. There's other more important popular culture figures. Jackie Robinson, Frank Sinatra, Ella Fitzgerald, I believe. So people like that as well.
That's really cool. It's like instead of just political people, it's a
general inspirational figure.
It's like a cross section of people who have made an impact in our country.
Yep. Yeah. Oh, also Walt Whitman and Betsy Ross. So.
And we know you love some Betsy too. So.
I know. Girl Betsy is out there.
Gosh. Now if they had your boy Nigel Farage, we'd be all set. But seeing as he's not American, he probably won't.
So.
American?
Yeah. Sorry, Sorry, I love mispronouncing that. Anyways, he's not American, so it's okay. He'll get his statue someday. I believe in him.
You mentioned Frederick Douglass, and so all of the statue stuff has been kind of crazy. But I just heard the other day that they had torn down and defaced a statue of Frederick Douglass. Now, Can you explain to me what that does for any of the narrative that they've got going on? The dude was like an abolitionist and
escaped slave, self-educated, brilliant man. And then everyone is posting around the speech he gave on July 4th. So many people will only post the front part of the speech, which is the front part of the speech is, America, you should be ashamed of yourself because you're not fulfilling the Declaration of Independence that all men should be free. But the back half of the speech is saying, like, there is a framework for freedom for all people that you have already. Fulfill it. That he's not anti-America. He's America, fulfill your promises. And then we got rid of slavery. And again, it's not as if anyone is ever going to be absolutely perfect. It's the perpetual striving forward. But part of this perpetual striving forward is building upon, not tearing everything down.
Right. And you're so terrible, because that's the part that fits the narrative. And I'm just so tired of this. We're going to push the stuff that makes our agenda sound good. And, those other parts of it, they don't fit. It's okay. We're going to just push those under the carpet. And probably people aren't smart enough to do their own research. And that's really what it comes down to. Like, if it fits in a nice meme, people love to look at it. And, okay, I'm going to share that meme. Cool. I don't know. Probably you and I are some of the only people who, research their memes before they share them, because I really don't want to be, spreading stuff that's not true.
I try to.
Like the Frederick Douglass thing really rubbed me the wrong way this weekend, because he was a patriot. He was fighting hard for people, and to take the words and just do whatever you want with them, kind of, I don't know. I'm pretty sure that's not what he would have wanted.
No, not at all. I don't know, hijacking a dead man's legacy, who now he can't, obviously, he's dead. He can't stand up and say no. Like you're just taking everything that he worked for and you're twisting it every which way. But at the same time, you're only taking a little bit of what he said and twisting it every which way. You are not allowing the full body of work to be out there. Because again, if it's not even that long of a speech, if you had read the whole speech, you would know what his intention was, but you're just going to take that paragraph and not bother with the rest of it. People are tearing down statues. They're not like, oh, well, yes, this was a horrible slave owner, Confederate, whatever, we should tear down his statue. Yeah, they're not stopping there. They're not taking the time to understand why this was a respected man of his time, even though he also did terrible things. They're tearing down the good with the bad because it doesn't matter. Like they want it all gone.
And they're also tearing down like some people who maybe okay, so you shouldn't do stuff just because everybody else is doing it, right? But back in the day, like maybe dudes had slaves, and then as times went on and times changed, they were like, you know what, I'm really not into this anymore. And they've changed their mind. They're still tearing down those people's statues. So what? You can't do something wrong and change your mind and like repent, and what, we're going to hold your sin against you forever? Like, I know we don't talk a lot of religion, but it's kind of like what if God did that to us? What if he was like, well, you know what? When you were in second grade, you stole that pencil from your neighbor, and so you're out forever.
Right.
Like, people change, they grow, they learn,
mm-hmm.
So to tear things down, or it doesn't take any of that into account.
Right. Even, I mean, again, religiously, the Apostle Paul, who killed Christians, that's what he did. But at the same time, he turned around and wrote most of the New Testament. And he was he never hid the fact that he killed Christians. And there were a lot of people who did not want him in your happy Christian club when he had killed Christians previously. They thought that was kind of disqualifying, but people stood up for him and saying, hey, he's been forgiven. He's obviously changed his behavior. He didn't just say whatever. That you really can have that turnaround. And the social justice ideology it's religion most toxic. It's your justification, your salvation, if you can use such a term, is only in your ideological lockstep. And the second that you decide that what we say is too far, then we'll destroy you.
That's exactly it. They're going to destroy, and anything that doesn't glorify their belief system is out. Mm-hmm. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. You can learn from it. Doesn't matter that, you know, people have changed, or it's out. Doesn't fall in line. Got to get rid of it. Heaven forbid somebody has some information and thinks for themselves. Oh, no, not at all. But as per said in our president's speech, which listen if you haven't, because it was really good. So next week, we have somebody joining us who, we have somebody on the books who is hopefully joining us that does not fall in line with the liberal political lockstep. And hopefully she can bring some new stuff to us. Right. And from New York City, too, which is not an easy place to be conservative. Yeah. So that's exciting. So we look forward to that. It's good stuff. I'm excited. Me too. Well, until then, like, comment, and subscribe. And thank you for joining us. Yeah. Have a good week, guys. Cool. Like, comment, subscribe. Thank you. All right. Bye, guys. Bye.